Welcome to Just in Time, a podcast series provided by the Washington State Department of Social and Health Services, Developmental Disabilities Administration. I'm Kenny Davis.
And I'm Robin Wiseman. We will be your hosts for this fun, interactive, and informative podcast specially created for residential providers working to support and transform the lives of people with developmental disabilities across the state of Washington.
Each episode aims to educate through conversation, highlighting DDA's guiding values of inclusion, status and contribution, relationships, power and choice, health and safety, and competence. With that, enjoy the show. We are so excited. I am so excited for this episode. We have a guest with Robin and I this week who is not only a longtime friend of mine, a former colleague at DDA, but just beyond experienced professional in this field since 1998. She's dedicated her career to social and disability services. She holds a master's degree in nonprofit leadership from Seattle University and a bachelor's degree in Russian language and literature from the University of Montana. And currently, she has a role with Patterns Behavioral Services as the Senior Director of People and Culture, which is a role designed to cultivate a culture that promotes productivity, creativity, innovation, and growth within that company. With all that said, I want to welcome to the show Tena Gizinski. Thank you for being here with us this week.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to talk to you both.
So we were talking previously about, off air, about not only your role as Senior Director of People and Culture, but also, with your experience, with my experience, with Robin's experience as far as working with and on behalf of adults with disabilities. And you had spoken about the importance of mission, value, and culture, specifically around residential programs and the staff that are supporting within those. Can you tell us a little bit about how that alignment, how aligning employees in mission, value, and culture, kind of your theory on that, what you've learned within that, and then also how you believe it affects those that are supported in our programs?
Sure, absolutely. So, Kenny, I have over my career, I have worked in nonprofit, I've worked in governmental sectors, both Indian governments and state governments, as well as the for-profit sector. And what I love about the disability services niche is that we all are aligning ourselves. We're in this field not because it brings us all the riches, right? We're in this field because we have a passion to serve and a passion to support others and to make a meaningful difference in someone's life. Aligning people with mission, vision, and values and building organizational culture, people really want to feel this sense of belonging when they're picking their next employer, whether that is working at DDA, whether that's working at one of the nonprofits locally, or whether that is at one of our for-profit agencies. And typically how I've seen employees do this is one, many of the employees are working in multiple agencies and across multiple sectors, right? So you see them do things like their primary job is at one agency with a secondary role in another. And then sometimes you see that change middle of the way through, right? So you have to think to yourself, like, what's happening in that person's moment in time? What is their experience with the other agency, and why might that be shifting? It could be as simple as they needed a schedule change, right? But more often what I see is that they are aligning themselves to the teams that have strong visions. They're aligning themselves to the teams that are not only talking about values, but really making decisions based on their company values. And they're building a culture around that. So this ability to go, okay, we value transforming lives. And because we value transforming lives, every decision that we make is going to be based around that. So if something is not aligned with that, we're not going to do it. So what a better way to create a sense of belonging and community than to clearly identify for people the impact that your company will make in the world and show others how they can be a part of that change. So Kenny and Robin, I'll ask you, did either of you review the mission, vision, and values of your current or prior employers?
Of my prior employers, I know I had seen them at one point, but I will say it had not sunk in as much as DDA's Transforming Lives for myself.
I would have to say the same, Tena. I'm familiar more with DDA's mission, vision, and values than with any other organization that I've worked for. And like you, I've also worked with government, educational institutions, nonprofits. A lot of different organizations, but for DDA, I feel like on a regular basis, I'm living that mission, vision, and values.
That's a beautiful thing, and that's a beautiful thing to say. And can I ask either one of you, have you been at DDA longer than any other employer?
Yes, for me.
No, I'm a transplant from the Midwest, and I moved out here in 2019. But been with the Department of Social and Health Services since I've been here, and with DDA for a little over a year. But I feel at home here, so it is a different feeling than I've ever had. That probably speaks a little bit to the mission, vision, and values.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. Employees are reinforced and incentivized to align with these ideals. And so I think that I'm hearing from both of you, you are feeling that where you currently are. And I'm really happy to hear that.
It's a really good question, the way you're centering that, Tena, and it gets me thinking of, and specifically, I know this will apply these concepts of the importance in aligning within mission, value, and culture, but in specifically in residential supports and working with adults with disabilities, it gets me thinking that the more I'll narrow it down to myself, like the more invested and aware and aligned I am with that, the better I'm able to then go support individuals that I'm, well, for lack of a better term, supporting. Have you seen examples of where that positive benefit can come in for folks who are delivering services to other individuals?
Yeah, so when people are able to identify quickly, so I'm going to stay on culture and then I'll dive into a better example. But when people are able to identify quickly what you do and what you don't do, the people that are working for you, your employees, have focus and predictability. So that means they're spending less time wondering about what you're going to do and how it may or may not impact them or their position, and leaving them with plenty of time to do what they love, which in any role is, right, supporting the people that we're serving. So whether you're the representative accounts payable person, whether you're the representative payee supporting somebody with their finances, whether you're in HR or the direct care staff on the floor helping them day to day live their daily life, when each person in your organization has clear focus and predictability, that means that they're focusing on the work. That means that they are invested and have the time and clarity to actually provide the services that we've asked them to provide. I think that that's a huge benefit to creating a very strong organizational culture. I I'll give you an example. COVID was hard. Would you guys both agree that was it's a really crazy time? And every agency was looking to DDA and saying, "Oh my God, what do we do? What do we do? How do we follow along? What do you want us to do?" Right? And the state is slow, and they're trying their best to react, but they have to react across all sectors. And so we're looking to King County, who at least I was looking to King County as my primary point of there's my rudder. And meanwhile, at this moment in time, I'm 3 months into my executive director's job. I'm learning. I have a whole team of people that are relying on me, and I don't know. And I have the same fear and apprehension as everyone else around me did. And so I was making mistakes, and I was making communication mistakes, and I was creating undue stress for my teammates. And that led to staff turnover. So, I had to take a step back and really look at our teams and say, what am I missing? And I met with a number of leaders, and how can we partner? How can we do better? What are you doing? Let me share with you all of our resources. Please share with me all of your resources. Let me try to find some balance. Um, and people were gracious. My gosh, I can't tell you how gracious people were in those moments. And so I took a step back and I realized what I had done to my team, what the COVID rules and regulations had done to all of our teams was suddenly take them from very much in-person work in the office to very much not in-person work in the office, leaving our direct care staff to go to work every single day on site, support people in person every day, right? And now there's this imbalance of you're not coming to work, but I have to come to work. And I want to come to work because I value the person that I'm serving, and I want to see them grow and succeed, and I want them to not be afraid during COVID, and I want them to be healthy. And so I'm here. And we had to do a lot of rebuilding of our team, rebuilding of that trust and relationships by saying, there's been the information was coming so fast that there was miscommunication or this appearance of not working fast enough and not replacing that in-person camaraderie with something virtual. And once we started replacing that camaraderie and rebuilding our teams, we really bonded together as a very, very strong team. What that did was we were COVID free for a very, very, very long time, and we felt so lucky. And when we had a COVID incident and we had to call upon our teammates and say, who is willing to work in a COVID positive household? And because we had such strong bonds and we had such strong alignment with our mission, and we were very clear about our plan and how it would play out, we had people lining up, sign up sheet, lining up. I will go in if this happens. Call on me when this happens. And we did not, we were struggling for staff. For everyone, I think, struggles for staff in the industry. In those moments were one of the few moments we did not at all struggle for staff. So I'd say that's probably my best example of how you have strong alignment and strong bond with your team, that creates a positive impact in people's life.
It's a very powerful example. It gets me thinking within this concept of alignment and the specificity that might be required. That, I'll give an example with DDA's mission, which says transforming lives by providing support and fostering partnerships that empower people to live the lives they want. So if that's the guidepost and you have something completely unexpected to the level of COVID, or, something that is a challenge, does provide barriers, is it fair to say the more specific and kind of putting together, hey, this is where we want to aim to, how we do it, that's where the creativity comes in and is subject to adjust to the unexpected challenges, but at least we always have some area we can always be moving towards, and then those solutions can come within that. Is it fair to say being specific without prescriptive can be an effective tool within this concept?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will set goals all day long. I will not at all tell you how to get there. Because it doesn't matter how you get there. A little bit it matters how you get there, right?
There are policies and literal laws involved, yes.
Yeah.
What were your strategies for creating that bond within your team around, sort of led by the mission, vision, and values? What strategies did you use? Because as you know and have stated that hiring and retention is a huge issue in this field, maybe providing a little of your strategies to residential providers would be helpful to them.
So we met as a leadership team and reaffirmed what our mission and vision and values were. Once we were all very clear that this was our tenement, what I did intentionally in every single leadership team meeting, so in the leadership team meeting, it was every director from every department was on that call. And in those monthly meetings, we would go over our values and our mission every single meeting. And not just let me read to you the values, right? Not just read to me the mission as it sits on this PowerPoint, but more, how did you see the mission play out? Specific example of a teammate on your team. How did you witness them live the mission this month? Give me an example of when you saw a value play out and what decision was being made and what value did it align to. And so now you've got your teammates not just thinking about these values sit on the wall, right? Now you're thinking about every interaction that we have should align to either one of our values, one of our characteristics, the characteristics that we look for in an employee, or our overarching mission. And if it doesn't, let's be asking ourselves why it does not, because we need to talk about that as well.
That's great.
Makes me think of a question. So as a company developing, hey, this is going to be our mission, these are our values, this is the culture of our organization, specifically as we talk about residential providers and the field in general, what part of the process, either that you've implemented or it could be theoretical, but as far as soliciting feedback from you could use the word customer, from individuals receiving supports in a residential setting, what part does that feedback play into making sure that your mission, your values, and your culture are on the right track to deliver the supports in a person-centered way that somebody would most benefit from?
One of the values in our industry is nothing done to me without my voice. Nothing done to me, right? Do to me or for me, without
Yes,
my voice.
I've heard it. Nothing about us without us is the way I've heard it expressed.
Thank you. Thank you. I understood the feeling of the sentiment of the saying, clearly not all the words. Our teams were responsible for communicating with families on a minimum of a weekly basis. We would send out, surveys, right? You use surveys. Some people fill them out, some people don't. And every interaction that I had, so usually when people were reaching out to me, they were reaching out of frustration. Every now and then, it was really nice when people would reach out to say the things that they were really enjoying about their experience. But I took every one of those opportunities to ask questions. How can we do better? What part of this service do you value? Is your life meaningful in the way that you want it to be? Do you get to do the things that you want to do? Are your traditions honored at our company? And if not, how can we do it differently? How can we support you in a different way? And what does that look like? So really, at every one of those interaction points, you have the opportunity to ask people that question every time. How can we support you better? What does it look like to do better, be better? And just kind of integrating that into everyday conversation, you get a lot of feedback. And people trust you because you're asking them the question, and not just asking the question in the form of a survey, which did go out, but asking them in every interaction. And then taking that feedback and saying, okay, here's what's happening in this house. Are our values aligned with what's happening? Yes or no? Are they asking for something that's outside of our value statement? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, they're not asking for something outside of our value statement, then the next answer is, how do we do it? How do we help? How do we help?
Do you think that this is a sort of a generational issue, and that younger generations are now wanting to feel more at home, connected to the agencies and organizations that they work for? Do you have a sense that it's like a new worker sort of mindset, or do you think that it's always been this way?
I think we're changing, and we're changing for a couple. It might be generational. I think there's generations play a part of that, right? We have been consistently pushing our workforce to work more. The value of an employee used to be, they're here before I get here and they're the last person to leave. And our culture is shifting. We no longer want to be here before you get here and stay until after you're gone. Like that's not the life most of us want to live. Some of us need to do that sometimes. But but I think we're all trying to find better balance. And so if we feel like if we have purpose and we're tied to a mission and we're contributing significantly, then work life balance becomes this. I enjoy my work when I'm at work, and I don't mind the email that comes in, and I might not respond to it because it's not urgent. But I'm also weaving my life into it. So I'm seeing a lot of the generation really want to have purpose at work.
So on this concept, I just want to give an opportunity. Are there any resources you've utilized you would recommend for people to seek out, whether it's a website, a book, a video, anything around mission, value, and culture? What would you recommend for people to check out?
So, the books on mission and culture, I don't have a specific book to that. What I do have are, how do we build teams? How do we negotiate well? And so some of the things that I really like to read are, Harvard Business Review. So I've read HBR's 10 must reads for 2022. As far as negotiation goes, those negotiation skills are critical, right? It's important to be able to say no and know how to do it with respect and get everybody's needs met. So Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss is also a very good book. But my all-time favorite book I like to suggest for leadership, anyone in leadership, is The Little Prince by Antoine Saint Exupéry. And it's a children's book, and it stresses the importance of looking beneath the surface and finding real truth and real meaning. And each of the characters in the books are an archetype teaching a lesson. And if we have time, I'd like to read you a few lines from the book.
Please do.
That'd be great.
Grown-ups love figures. When you describe a new friend to them, they never ask you about the important things. They never say, "What's his voice like? What are his favorite games? Does he collect butterflies?" Instead, they demand, "How old is he? How many brothers does he have? How much does he weigh? How much does his father earn?" And only then do they feel like they know him. So I'll leave you with this. If you're looking at archetypes and trying to find deeper meaning, can you relate to this sentiment in the book of this dichotomy between how children view friendships and how adults view friendships and talk about it? Do you need to dig deeper, or do you need to step back to understand the whole picture a little better? And when someone brings you information, do you whip the answer out at them, or are you spending time in that moment learning together what that right answer is? Are you including every person who this decision impacts in the decision? Do they have a voice? And is that decision aligned with your mission and values?
That's beautifully stated. Thank you so much for bringing that to the conversation. And I think it wraps nicely into the concept of sometimes with what you are designing in a mission, in a value, in a culture, the simpler it can be and understood, the more value that could be gained out of it by more people.
That was great, Tena. Thanks so much for sharing.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me to be part of the conversation.